And also, if you want to see this part and the next part and all the parts and everything and blah blah blah, please consider a So now it leaves us with only one question. What actually is the Loom of Fate, and what power could it hold? Who knows, right? Oh wait, I might know something. The Loom of Fate. What exactly is it, and what happened to Caribert? Who is Clothar? Who is the Sinner? I will try to answer all of these questions in this video series, and please keep in mind that this is part 2, so if you didn't see part 1, you should go and watch it first. But if you did the quest and actually read it, you will not miss any crucial information by starting here, just some more speculations and notes. Do keep in mind that all of the answers that I will provide are pure speculations and are not indicative of the final product. And of course, spoilers for the whole Archon quest. With that out of the way, let's begin. While we don't know what exactly happened to Caribert, we do know that he is now able to change his destiny, which is an absolutely massive feat and not just a metaphor, since destiny is quite literally real in Genshin Impact, and it is, as Amona says, written in the stars. To change destiny, you will require more power than was needed to change the Irminsul in the latest Archon quest, because, as we know, neither Scaramouche is made from Irminsul wood, and therefore is Irminsul's part, nor Nahida, the literal avatar of Irminsul and goddess of wisdom with 2 noses, couldn't actually change the fate of this world. They just managed to erase some memories and some information, however, the actual events never changed. So, even breaking the curse of immortality is already a greater feat than changing Irminsul's data, at least in my eyes, because it is literally their destiny to be cursed. And let's actually talk about what destiny and fate mean in the world of Teyvat. As we know from the Unreconciled Stars event from 1.1, the stars, the sky, it's all a gigantic hoax, a lie. The stars in the sky that make up constellations are real rocks that can fall down, and this is quite unusual. I mean, we all know that stars are giant balls of plasma very far away from each other, and they can't fall down. Of course, you can make an excuse of, well, Genshin is literally a fantasy game, and while that is true, we do know that the concept of stars there is still the same as in our universe. In the same event, Mona notes that stars are light years away, and yet they somehow turned to stones and fell down from the skies. They are the same rocks that make up people's constellations, Stella Fortuna, the same ones that we wish on our banners. And as Mona said about the stars in the event, the constellation was summoned down from the sky. So, somehow, someone with the same power as we, as players, were able to summon this constellation. I wonder. Oh, and also, as I mentioned before, these meteors are called Stella Fortuna, which is translated from Latin Star of Fortune. While fortune might mean luck, it also refers to an old goddess of chance, luck, and fate, Fortuna, or in an ancient Greek, Tyche. Tyche is a very interesting deity. As the governor of such concepts as fate, luck, and fortune, she was not given a lot of credit for a while, until the Hellenistic period with Alexander the Great. Tyche increasingly embodied the whims of fate, both negative and positive, eclipsing the role of even the Olympic gods and going as far as even just the concept of Tyche is able to influence God's plans. She was conceived as the divinity guiding and conducting the affairs of the world, and in this respect, she was considered and called one of the Moirai, or one of the Fates, or Norns in Norse mythology. Now we are getting somewhere. If you're somehow unfamiliar, the Fates, or Moirai, are the personifications of destiny itself. The role of the Moirai was to ensure that every being, mortal and divine, lived out their destiny as it was assigned to them by the laws of the universe. Generally, they were considered to be above even the gods in their role as enforcers of fate. For mortals, this destiny spanned their entire lives, and was represented as a thread spun from a spindle and weaved on a loom. Huh. They are three sisters, from oldest to youngest: Atropos, the Unturnable, Lachesis, the Allotter, and Clothar, the Spinner. I am pretty sure that you know where I'm going with this now. The name Clothar has an uncanny resemblance to the Greek name Clotho, one of the three fates. This ties into Clothar's role as the originator of the Abyss Order and the creator of the Loom of Fate, both as a project and as a concept. And yes, some might call it a stretch, however, please remember that this is Hoyoverse. When they name a character, especially if that character is relevant, they make sure that the name implies something. The most straightforward example of this are the Archons and Hypostasis. So, with assumption that both characters are somehow connected, let's review information about the Greek goddess of fate. Sadly, there is not a lot of information on the fates in general, since there does not seem to be any epic tale in Greek mythology in which the fates are the main focus. They did play major roles in the stories, but mentions of them are brief. What we do know about Clotho specifically is her role as the spinner, and the one who dictates the start of the life and how it will go. What I've noticed that sometimes two other sisters are much more trivial, and their tasks are sometimes completed by Clotho, especially Atropos, who's responsible for death. It kinda makes sense since life and death are two sides of the same coin. As such, there's a theory that originally the Greeks thought of only one singular Moira. This concept is not new, especially for ancient Greek mythology. We already know of ideas that, for example, Hermes used to be Pan, which was split into two halves and thus with two different responsibilities and qualities of the original. And as such, it is not really that hard to assume that Tyche and Clothar might be one and the same, or at least somehow related to a much older original god of destiny. And now, let's get back to Clothar. I'm not implying that he is the literal god of fate and destiny, but in a way reflects the idea. As we all know, Genshin is heavily based on Gnosticism, alongside a lot of other mythologies. And in Gnosticism there is an idea of fate, and what is much more interesting, of changing fate. This is what I found about this idea.
The only way to definitely change one's fate is through the great work of renouncing life as a creature subject to fate and being reborn as a servant of God.
It sounds eerily similar to some ideas that I've heard about the Abyss Order and its creatures. There is a very old theory that Hilicheros and other Abyss creatures, such as Abyss Mages, Heralds, Lectors, Husks, and etc., are fundamentally different in their nature. And now I can add to it with the context that we have. What exactly do we know that happened to Caribert? Well, he was awakened, but not by the medicine that we made. Instead by the blessing of the sinner, that was probably bestowed upon Clothar. I believe that while we were away, when Caribert took off his mask, looked into the mirror and escaped into the woods, he was somehow communicating with the sinner, most probably by the power that was in him. After all, the sinner was able to see us even though we were just in a memory. In this state he wandered off while contemplating everything that happened to him, with the story of Clothar and probably some nudges in the right direction from the sinner. When we met him, it was already too late, as he himself stated that it's all too much. I believe in that moment, Caribert finally understood that he is no longer human, by looking into the mirror before, by the words of his father and the delusions from the sinner. In that moment he was renouncing life as a creature subject to fate, and being reborn as a servant of God. Remember, the first thought that Clothar had about the sinner was that he is the true God, not like those small gods, Archons, a real one. As such, I believe that Caribert became a creature of the Abyss, like a herald or a mage, or even a new type of hilichurl that we are yet to see in game, wink wink, and in turn changing his fate from forever being cursed with immortality to becoming this new creature unlike any human, and therefore no longer being affected by the curse. This was the moment when he changed his fate and he was reborn, and all of that thanks to the Sinner and Clothar, the first weaver of the Loom of Fate. So let's revise. We have a destiny that is literally formed by the fake stars, and someone can actually control them. There is a clear symbolism in the name Clothar that ties him to the one of the goddesses of fate, which created fate on a loom, same as Clothar and Caribert. And speaking of, Caribert probably turned into some kind of new creature, and since the destiny was programmed into his previous life, he is now unaffected by it, therefore reviving his own fate and becoming a base for everyone in the future, the Loom of Fate. And yes, I believe that this curse works the same way as a program in a computer, as we all noticed how Dendro and Irminsul are very reminiscent of those concepts. And now it leaves us with only one thing, the Sinner. Honestly, his identity leads to a much bigger theory of world structure, so we will have to revisit him in the next video. I definitely want to hear your thoughts, so make sure to leave them down in the comments. Also, I do understand that this video is much smaller than the previous one, but it should help me in creating this much faster, and that means that you will be able to watch them sooner. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the like button to let me know that you like this type of content. Thank you all for sticking to the end, and I will see you in the next part. Goodbye. So, even breaking the curse of immortality. And let's actually talk about what destiny and fate mean in the world of Tewat. Oh, and also, as I mentioned before, these meteors. For mortals, this destiny spawned. Generally, they were considered to be upon. What we do know about Clothar, wow, my bones are so loud. What we do know about Clothar specifically is her role as the spinner and the one who dictates the start of the alongside of a lot of other mythos. It sounds eerily similar to some ideas that I've heard. Therefore, reviewing his own. Reviewing. And also, if you want to see this part and the next part and all the parts and everything and blah blah blah, please consider my hair got stuck in my hair got in the way of my mouth. How is that possible?